Hello and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen E. Osborne. I have five novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. I am delighted to introduce you all today to Trish MacEnulty. She is a professor. She teaches English and writing and literature. She's an author and she writes historical fiction, literary short stories, and memoirs. And she's here to talk to you about her latest book, which is historical fiction, The Whispering Women. And it's the first book in a new mystery series. Hey, Trish.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I'm so glad you're here. So, you've started this new series. So, tell us a little bit about the premise and the setting and the period. Give our viewers a sense of this new series and the first book.
Okay, I would love to talk to you about the first book, which is The Whispering Women. And I will say that I've written five books have already been published, and I'm working on the sixth book. So,
Oh, so this isn't the first of a series.
well, this is the first. This is book one in the series. And then there's book two, three, four, and five.
Ah,
And yeah, and then the
so why aren't
next
we talking about book five?
because people want to read the first book. And if people don't know about this series, which I think there are a lot of people who don't, they want to start with book one. So
Makes
that's
sense.
that's the book that I talk about the most, because, like I said, that's the where you meet the two characters. It's Delafield and Malloy investigations. So it's Louisa Delafield, who is she was born into society, blue blood, New York family, but they've lost their money. They lost their money, and her father died when she was 12 years old. So she's impoverished, but she wants to keep keep tabs. She wants to stay a part of society. So she becomes a society writer. Well, she teams up with a former lady's maid named Ellen Malloy, and the two of them start investigating things going on in the world at that time, especially things that affect women. So,
Hmm.
in the first book, there is illegal abortions, and the two women uncover a ring, and then there is also there are gangsters, and there are society people who are not very nice, and in fact, one of them is actually quite the predator. And she doesn't know that
Hmm.
because Louisa's, she's innocent. And she doesn't realize that the people she grew up with and the people she admires um, have some qualities that are not admirable.
Yeah. So what year are we in?
1913. So the first book is 1913. The second book, The Butterfly Cage, is 1914. The third book, um, is also 1914, and that's The Burning Bride. The fifth book is Secrets and Spies, and that's 1915. Lady's Lantern is in 1916, and now I'm writing the book that takes place in 1917.
Cool. Do you have a cover? Do you have a book with you
I
to
have
show
this,
us? Oh, look at that. Isn't that nice looking? That looks so inviting.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
was
it's
it got an award from the Historical Fiction Company, which is a wonderful group if you don't know about them. Um, and they highly recommended it.
excellent, excellent. You know, that's an interesting time in history that you're writing about. And there's so many parallels to what's going on here today. My own True Grace takes place in 1924. And there's all those things that you mentioned, including, on top of that, anti-immigrant, and of course, women, there's lots of misogyny at that time, despite the flappers. So I think that that's such a, what is it about that time that is so attractive to writers and readers?
Well, I think that the 1910s and the 1920s have not been explored as much as, say, World War II. So
Mm,
it's an era that's sort of ripe for delving into. And it's such an area of transition. So the Gilded Age is sort of fading out, and women are finally starting to come into their own because the whole world is changing. Electricity. People, electricity was discovered earlier than this, but it wasn't widespread.
mm,
Electricity's become widespread. People have telephones in their own homes.
yes.
So it was this modernization. There's even photographs and videos. You can find videos. In fact, I found a video of the Lusitania on YouTube. And the Lusitania was the ship that was sunk by a German U-boat. And to be able to see those people getting on the boat was fascinating. So I think it appeals in a lot of ways. It's still sort of accessible to us, but
Hmm.
it is far enough away that it hasn't been completely used up. It's an era that a lot of people don't know that much about. And so I think I think, a lot of people love the Gilded Age and they love that era. And so like what happens right after that? So
Yes. What happens right after that? Yeah, it's also such a time that, you write about New York, and so do I. You wrote about New York in this one, and so do I. And it was also a time, right, where you could still see an elevator train, a trolley, and a horse-drawn carriage all on the street
yes,
at the
yes,
same. I've seen some amazing pictures. I have a photo of the elevator train going by, and a car is on the road, and there's the trash man with a cart and a horse, putting
yeah.
all in the same picture. So it's a very, you're right, it's a very intriguing time, and there's lots to tap into it. So you mentioned Louisa and Ellen, one coming from society, one being a lady's maid. What do you like about them? Tell me a little bit about their character, besides, is it Louisa who's innocent?
She's fairly is innocent. She does not realize that these people that she thinks so highly of are actually just like anybody else, and they can be quite corrupt. Um, but you mentioned immigrants. Ellen is a recent immigrant from Ireland. And
Mm,
so she experiences there was quite a bit of discrimination, as I'm sure everyone knows, against the Irish. And so she experiences that. And so she's also gay. So she experiences that discrimination as well. And so she's more attuned to what goes on to people being oppressed and to the reality for people of other classes than Louisa necessarily is. And so they teach each other about their respective worlds.
mm. Well, and then we get to glimpse all of that as we read, delve into it. Yeah, there was discrimination against Irish, against Black, against Asian, against Italians. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was rampant for sure.
it really was. So as they're learning from each other, what do you, as a writer, as you go from series, from book to book in the series, how are they growing? How are these two women growing?
So I think it's really important that they learn and grow in each book. Um, and so in the first book, Louisa learns that the people that she's looked up to are not very admirable. And Ellen starts to learn that not everyone who's wealthy is evil. In fact, she
Mhm.
falls in love with a very wealthy woman. And so they grow, they change in book one, and then in book two, they learn about actually sex trafficking, the sex trafficking trade, and
Mm.
they discover their own power and they discover their own ability to stand up for women. And then in book three, Ellen travels to the South with the maid that she's grown up with and gets to see discrimination against blacks in that world. And boy, does that open her eyes. So in
Yeah.
each book, they face challenges, they learn, they become more empowered, and they change. They change in each book.
Yes, I like that they become more empowered with each book. That sounds awesome. One of many of the people who watch our show are writers themselves, because plus writers are readers. So everybody that watches is a reader, but many are writers, and you teach writing. I wonder if you had any like one little pearl of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience.
Well, I think for historical fiction writers, the most important thing is to let the history guide you. And I didn't really know
Mm.
that in the first book. I didn't understand how history itself, how knowing exactly what was going on in that particular time could guide and shape my story. Um, but the more you delve into history, the more fascinating it is. And
Mm.
of course, you have to be careful because you don't want the history and you don't want your research to overpower your story and overpower the emotional impact and what your characters are going through. But I
Yeah.
think it's really important to get in there and see what was going on even if you're so I have another book that I wrote. It is a book, a coming of age story called Cinnamon Girl.
Yeah, I
And
saw that on your website.
there's Cinnamon Girl. And
Yeah.
it was set in 1970. Well, I was alive in 1970. I mean, this book is based somewhat on my own experiences. However, I had to go back and really do the research of what was going on in that time period in order to enrich my book because I think people like to learn when they read. Even when they're reading fiction, you want to learn, you want to find out about a world that is unfamiliar to you. And so my advice is to let the research itself guide you.
That I also like your comment about not letting your research overwhelm the story. I have read historical fiction where you can tell the writer was just so in love with every little detail. And like, okay, we don't need like all of that. It's not moving the plot along.
Exactly,
That is
exactly. And so,
true.
that's why, yeah, it's why it's great to get feedback too. It's like, oh, is this getting a little too slow? Am I bogging the reader down? Yeah, you're so right
Yes.
about that.
It's wonderful to have writing groups and beta readers, all of that. What a
Yeah,
wonderful profession we belong to, where
it
people are
really
so
is.
helpful to each other
Yeah.
and support each other. As you think about your own writing journey, was there a book or an author that helped shape who you are or has a really big influence on who you are as a writer?
Oh my goodness. Every single one influences you. Every single writer that you delve into, I can say one of my favorite writers writing today is Madeline Martin, and I've gotten to know her personally, and I learned from her not just about writing, but well, one thing I learned from her is that she spends so much time outlining first. And that so she writes very fast, and I tend to write fast as well. And so it really helps to have that outline so you don't get lost. And I didn't used to be much of an outliner, but I'm getting better at it. So I've
I'm a
learned a
failure at that, Trish. I am a failure at that. I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just writing and writing, and my characters are taking me all kinds of places.
and and that really works for some people, especially if you're going to take a little more time. But if you're trying to get that book done and move on to the next one, it really, I mean, now the outline changes as I write because you're right. Your characters are like, "Oh, we're going to go do this," and you have to follow them. But at least I have a blueprint of where I think I want to go.
You think you want to go. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, this has been such a lovely, lovely conversation. I know that our audience wants to buy all of the series and they want to check out Cinnamon Girl. How can they find you? Where can they find you?
I have a website, trishmackenulty.com, TrishMacEnulty.com. And that has links to all of my books, whether you want to get them from Amazon or whether you want to just order them from your favorite independent bookstore, which I highly recommend. Or, you may want the ebook, which you can find on Amazon or also Barnes and Noble. So there are all the links are on my website.
Are you on social media?
I'm I mainly use Instagram, but I do have an author page on Facebook where we put our advertisements, and I also try to put book recommendations. But I've kind of gotten addicted to Instagram, and I think it's a really wonderful place for writers and readers to connect. I'm even on Threads now. Um,
Mm,
so yes, Trish MacEnulty _ author.
excellent, excellent. So I hope all of you are going to follow Trish. That's going to be the first thing you're going to do. You're going to follow Trish on all of those books. You're going to go visit her website and see all the things that she has, which is it's a beautiful website. I visited it. Very nice.
And you
And
can
so I
sign up
hope you
for my
will
newsletter there.
sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah.
And I hope you will let her know when you do get in touch with her. You met her, and what are you reading? What are you writing? Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, and I will see you all next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.